It's Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated and Prime Video. What a big game. Yes, round of applause again. Big game tonight, brother.
Huge game, yeah. I mean, I think for the Vikings, it's a chance to bounce back. And, like the Lions took it to them. And I think, one of the things the Vikings took from that was, like, what it's going to take to compete on that level, because the Lions are on that level, and so they start 5-0. This is kind of their, all right, like we took a 10-0 lead on the Lions. It feels like the roof's going to collapse. It's so loud in there. And Detroit, Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, like calmly put their foot in the ground and turn that thing around. So,
which is what a championship team does on the road in division, right?
Yep. And then for the Rams, it's sort of, I mean, God, like with what might happen with Cooper Kupp in the next, week and a half. Like,
are they really? Let's pause right there, man. Are they really shopping Cooper Kupp?
They're not shopping him. They're taking phone calls on him. The mistake that people make is they don't need to shop him. Teams are calling them. I mean, they don't need it. There's no, I mean, you see Hopkins gets traded and Cooper gets traded and Devontae gets traded. And of course, these teams are also calling the Rams because the Rams are sitting there at 2-4 and they were 1-4 before Sunday.
Yes.
And so, yes, the Rams have taken calls on Cooper Kupp. And I think the question is going to be whether or not the value matches up, because what they've told teams is that it's going to cost you more than it cost the Jets for Devontae Adams to get Cooper Kupp out of here.
Which is a 3 to become a 2, but it becomes a 2 with some really lofty
first
goals.
Or second team All-Pro,
and also on a roster of a championship weekend or a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so like I think that part of it. So for the Rams, you can understand their point of view there, which is this is an iconic player. Game winner in the Super Bowl, was a part of Sean McVay's first draft class here. Really, Cooper Kupp's a huge part of them getting their foothold in Los Angeles. So this is an icon, right? And it's a bad look if you're trading an icon for a third or a fourth round pick, right? This is a franchise icon. On the other end of it, if you're a team looking at Cooper, you look at the market, you look at like what Hop just went for, what Devontae went for. You look at his injury history over the last couple of years, his age, his contract situation. It's like, can't give up a 2 for that. I think most teams would look at it that way. So I think the Rams are going to listen. And certainly, what happens, not only against the Vikings tonight, but what happens against the Seahawks a week from Sunday could affect, how they approach that. If they're 4-4, it looks a lot different than if they're 2-6.
So this is a situation where the next 2 football games really can help you read some tea leaves.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think so, yep.
And what about Nakua's availability?
Yeah, and I think Puka's got a real good shot to play tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah, I think he can play tonight, yeah.
Okay, so for those who have him stashed on their injured reserve on their fantasy...
I mean, wait till what is it? I mean, 6:45 we'll know, right? So is that what it is for inactives, I think? 7 o'clock?
Sure, 7
o'clock.
6:45
Eastern. The kickoff, what's the official kickoff?
8:15.
I mean, it's your network. You should know. I mean, you just came from a meeting hour. You're looking at us and asking when to go to work.
Yeah.
You know when to go to work.
Yeah, but I think they feel they've... I mean, it's interesting because the Rams are dealing with all of these injuries. And so, Puka, I think getting a nice surprise tonight would be good, but they still are down a bunch of offensive linemen. And the 2 guards that they paid, or the guard in the center, Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson. Obviously, Avila is a guy they've developed, and Jonah, they paid a lot of money to have him. Mm-hmm. They're probably not getting those guys back till at least week 10. Which is after the trade deadline. So there's just a lot of moving parts with where the Rams are right now. And, I think it's made this like a little bit of a challenging period where teams are calling on your players. Like, what do we do now? Well, I think part of what you do is you wait out a game like tonight and see where you stand.
And the following week, too, because if you think about it here, the Rams already have a home win over the Niners in their back pocket. Mm-hmm. They go up to Seattle and beat Seattle. And they have a road win in division in their back pocket, right?
Are they a half game out right now? I think, right.
Well, I mean, the Niners. I mean, the Niners. The Niners are 3-4. They're a half game behind the Niners, who are technically in third place because the Cardinals at 3-4 have a back pocket win in San Francisco, and the Seahawks are only 4-3.
Yeah.
So this isn't out of the realm. I mean, there's the division right up there on our screen. This is not out of the realm at all.
No.
For the Rams to actually 2 weeks from now, if things break. Certainly with Kupp and Nakua healthy and active, they could be in first place in this division.
And they're not looking up at the Chiefs here. I mean, the Niners.
The Seahawks have the Bills this weekend, and Tua's back in Miami for the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. The Niners have Dallas, which is very hungry. Honestly, like this is what's so at stake tonight and over the next 10 days, right on the cusp of the trade deadline. This is pretty big.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, who knows? Like with Matthew Stafford, like, could this be, like, you look at how his contract sets up, and we've talked about this since the summer, like, there's an exit from the contract after this year if there's a mutual decision that they don't want, that relationship doesn't go on another year. So, like, they could go from being, like, on the fringe of contention tonight to all of a sudden being back in it with an aging quarterback, an aging receiver, but people who are going to be all in to win right now with this group. It's just a really important couple games for the middle of the season.
Do you think Stafford could be made available at a trade deadline?
Not before the trade deadline. Okay. No, I don't think so.
So then give me Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Give me some names of players, significant players that could be made available by the trade deadline, because you're hearing Lions fans hoping for the best to get Aidan Hutchinson back healthy next year. But you're
Super Bowl.
You think Super Bowl could be possible for him?
So like somebody said to me that knows him really well, said that on that day in Dallas, the hand of God was on him. It's obviously not fortunate going through the injury.
Correct.
But they were 10 minutes away from a level 1 trauma center. At that trauma center, there's Dr. Alan Jones, who is the best in the country at this type of surgery that he needed. No artery damage, no ligament damage, no nerve damage. As clean a break as you're going to get.
Wow.
So, like, Aidan Hutchinson has a real chance to play in the Super Bowl. And beyond just, like, when you're looking at the Super Bowl, beyond just that, he's going to get a full offseason. So now when you're the Lions and you're talking about potentially negotiating a new contract with him, you're going to have more peace of mind because he's going to have a healthy offseason. So I think Aidan's got the best news he possibly, obviously terrible injury, ugly injury, but if you're talking about the aftermath, the fact that he was right there, like right by like a level 1 trauma center, Baylor, there in Dallas, and had Dr. Jones operating on him less than 3 hours after the surgery. A bad circumstance, but a really good result of the aftermath.
But you're also off of by the way, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Off of that, though, you're hearing maybe if the Browns keep losing Myles Garrett's available, and then the Raiders keep losing Max Crosby, you can call for him. Are those even in the realm, do you think?
I think the two positions that you're looking at, we've talked about receivers, right? So there's some obvious names still out there. The Panthers with Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. The Titans, I think, still could, if you're looking for a reclamation project, trade Treylon Burks, who's fallen down the depth chart there. And then the pass rushers are really interesting. So, there are a couple where, yes, I think they're available. Like, I think Jadeveon Clowney in Carolina would be available, health permitting, would be available. Zadarius Smith in Cleveland, somebody who, you look at him and he would be available.
But not Myles Garrett?
And then that's the thing is, like, if you're another team, I don't think it's like a hang up the phone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's a complete hang up the phone, but I think it would take the moon and the stars to go and get him. So I expect teams are going to be calling Cleveland on Myles Garrett. I expect teams are going to be calling Vegas on Max Crosby. Again, like, this is, I hesitate to even call it a new generation of general manager, because that's not what, it's been happening for a while now. Mm-hmm. But this generation of football executive is very aggressive, and is going to be aggressive in what they ask about. And so you see a team like Cleveland, and you call and you say, is Myles Garrett available? Is Denzel Ward available? So there are the guys that you would see on that roster that would normally be available. Maybe your Jack Conklins, your Zadarius Smith, but you also ask, well, would you consider moving on from, a franchise level player like a Garrett? And I don't think they do it, but I think they will get phone calls on him.
Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. And again, Amari Cooper used to be there, so maybe that's a reason why. Dallas,
that's a bad signal. You trade Amari Cooper, that's a bad signal that, like, we're open for business, right?
But, no, I understand that for Cleveland, but I'm going with Dallas here. Mm-hmm. You watch DeAndre Hopkins go to the Chiefs for a 5 that can become a 4. You watch Devontae Adams, we understand why he winds up with the Jets because of Rodgers being there. And you watch Amari Cooper go, and again, I know Cooper used to be there, so maybe that's not a reason why he goes back there. But why doesn't Dallas, certainly sitting where they are and seeing what they've gotten, what they've gotten to right now, why wouldn't they be active for these people? Can you take me inside the mindset Certainly with Jerry Jones having jousting sessions on his radio show 2 straight Tuesdays now. And he understands what's going on outside the building.
Yeah. I feel like he's like turned up the temperature, and
on who?
Know, like there's
on who? On
everybody,
coach?
on everybody. And like, I think it's sometimes like Jerry has a lot of outlets that he speaks to, right? Yes. Like, so he has the radio station, he talks to the media after games. So there are some things that Jerry says where it's like, you can chalk it up to Jerry says a lot of things. But like, I just like look at the pattern of behavior going back to the end of last year, the all-in comment without spending much money. We're all in. The decision not to extend Mike McCarthy and send him into a contract year, dragging your feet with Dak and CD and sort of making them sing for their supper, right? Like, and they don't get done until deep into training camp. Like you look at it and like every single decision, it's like the heat is being turned up on everyone there. And I know people there have felt it to some degree. And there's an element of it, this like life in the big city. It's what you sign up for when you go to that team. But there's also like an intentionality that it seems like Jerry is putting on it too now. And I think back to the year they traded for Amari Cooper and kind of how I believe that was Dez was still there, right? I think Dez was still there, and Dez was still, playing at a pretty high level then. And it was like, well, what do they have? Maybe it wasn't. I'm trying to remember now, but
we could look that up.
Either way, it was in the middle of the season. And I remember part of it when he talked to Dallas people was like that Jerry wanted to create some urgency. And I certainly think in this circumstance, like you could say like Jerry should take a swing here to create some more urgency. But he spent the entire calendar year doing it.
Well, if this is in fact, what is happening, then at some point you can also look out from the owner's suite and see the results that the turning the heat up on everybody isn't working.
Yeah.
It's not working. Now, you could also say, well, that guy's hurt, that guy's hurt, that guy's hurt, and
there's a lot of teams are like that, though.
No, that's what I'm saying, but and we believed in that guy that we drafted. We believe in this kid Tolbert to step up. We believe in X, Y, and Z. Rico Dowdle's going to come on strong. And that our left tackle's going to get better. I mean, you could sit here and say all that, but
he's still chasing the Derrick Henry thing. You know what I mean?
He's the one who mentioned it this past time on his own.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that there's a reason for it is because you're seeing Derrick Henry have his best first 7 games of his career. And Jerry then saying, hey, that wouldn't have happened here, rings hollow because you have told everybody how terrific the roster is. And I do believe you've got a terrific quarterback and a terrific receiver, that you have now add a third man to this game. And suddenly it opens everything up for everybody else, despite how poorly the offensive line might be playing. It just doesn't ring true. It sounds hollow, which is why if you go out and get somebody now, you can say, we're trying, unless that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's,
and I do think
that's where I feel like we're sitting going into the big Sunday nighter against San Francisco.
And so much of it's going to have to, I think so much of the improvement's going to have to be internal too, right? Like it's like, okay, like you're going to get Micah Parsons back. What does he look like? Do you get DeMarcus Lawrence back? How does Tyler Guyton look at left tackle as your first round pick? Deron Bland, what does he look back like when he's coming back? Is he the player that he was last year when he had 1 million pick sixes? And he had a really good camp too before he got hurt. So I think a lot of this is going to have to happen internal. Mike Zimmer's defense, second half of the year, what does it look like? Because they've gotten off to some horrific starts on that side of the ball. It's just, I think Jerry's probably looking at it right now and said, well, I was banking on this, and this. And how many of those things have happened? And some of it's under their control, some of it's injury, but like there's other things like where are you getting what you paid for? And so I think, again, if you're looking to turn the temperature up another notch, maybe you go get Adam Thielen. Maybe you go get Deontay Johnson. Maybe you go and bring somebody in who is not only going to take the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and give Dak Prescott another guy to throw to, but also, again, send the message to the team that, this has got to be a contender come hell or high water.
Wouldn't it be like, what, a 5 for those guys?
Probably not much, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think Carolina, I think to some degree Carolina would want to do right by Thielen and Deontay's in a contract year, So I think Either of those guys, I think either of those guys would be available. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, and so when does Micah return? What's your best guess here on that?
I would think he's really close. Now, whether or not it's Sunday, we'll see. I think part of that rides on how the next couple of days goes, but it's, the nature of that injury, high ankle sprain, like that, the nature of that injury is kind of like it really can, at the end of it, like when a guy's coming back, it truly is day to day.
What is in your notebook that I'm not asking you about? There's always something. Let's find it. What do we got?
I mean, I think I think one of the things that's interesting is kind of how the names of the coaches that I think will be in the cycle for next year, you're already starting to hear like, okay, like what's going to happen with Belichick, what's going to happen with Mike Vrabel. And I think the Jets firing Saleh kind of ramps that up a little bit. And
he's in Green Bay right now.
Yeah. And
hanging out, watching the offense for his buddy who he's crashing with, Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, and he's very close. And I think it's a unique situation because he's very close to their defensive coordinator too, Jeff Hafley, which I don't know that would work the same way if you didn't have that relationship, because
of course,
now all of a sudden you've got like this defensive coach coming in, but his role is actually similar to Vrabel's in Cleveland, where he's actually working with the offense. And so they're having him help to troubleshoot stuff and give kind of a defensive perspective to the offensive coaches on what they're doing. I think it's smart. I mean, I think Matt LaFleur is one of the best. I mean, I don't know how he hasn't won a Coach of the Year yet, but the things he's accomplished, managing the Rodgers thing for as long as he did, and then having Love ready to go, like he's gotten so many things right.
He's 2-0 with Malik Willis.
He's done an unbelievable job.
I mean, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Love goes down. All right, we'll start Malik Willis.
Yeah.
We'll go 2-0.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing is just kind of like, I'm really fascinated to see where the quarterback market goes next year. Sam's obviously played well, and we'll see what happens with Sam and the Vikings, but I think they've sort of tabled that and said, like, let's hope we have a good problem at the end of the year.
Of course.
And then, like Stafford here, like where are the Rams at the end of the year? And are they all in on Matthew again? Because if you look at the way that contract's set up, and it's fascinating because, like there have been rumblings about him wanting a new contract going back to the end of last year. So in January, like other teams had sort of heard like, Stafford's going to push for more money, a new deal. He winds up getting a $5 million raise. And so he's making 36 rather than 31 this year. And then there's a $4 million roster bonus is fully guaranteed at the beginning of next year and no guaranteed money after that. So there's sort of this decision point coming after the year on Stafford where, I mean, again, like we talk about the next two games being really important, and they are, and how they approach the trade deadline. I think the way the rest of the year goes, like, are they, when they get to 2025, going to be the all-in Rams again, or are they going to be sort of retooling around the group of first and second-year players, which is really impressive? Your Pukas, your Byron Youngs, your Kobe Turners, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse. Like, are you going to be rebuilding around those guys then?
But what about Rodgers too, right? I mean, because you would imagine Davante Adams in their conversations offline that they apparently were having for weeks.
Yeah.
That Adams at one point would have to ask Rodgers, how long are you going to continue to play, right?
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be just like, I need my exit visa from Vegas for at least the next 3 months,
right?
You would think.
And Davante's situation is interesting because his contract, he's due $36 million next year, non-guaranteed. So you'd think he's not playing on that contract, whether it's for the Jets or anybody else. So do the Jets keep him past this year? I think obviously that ties to whether or not they're keeping Aaron. And if they keep Aaron and Davante, what does that mean for other receivers in the roster? It's just, there's a lot of moving parts with the Jets right now. And
2-5, man. They were 2-1 for the first time since 2015, and then we found out why that they hadn't gone 2-1 for in 10 years, because then they lose every game after that, 4 in a row, going to New England, and now it's every week. It's kind of like it's a reset. It's just like, okay, we're gonna go every week. It's a reset. We're going to London, and we're gonna try and see what we can do there, and and then it's now a reset with Davante Adams, who then, after that loss in Pittsburgh, he apparently gave an impassioned speech like, I'm new here and I don't see the urgency. And Rodgers said it's the best speech he's heard in 20 years.
Yeah.
And then now it's a reset there with Hassan Reddick helping reset it. And it just
feels like everything's like sort of haphazard. I think that's what you're getting at. Like where it's like the firing of the coach, the questioning that came from the locker room over firing Robert Saleh. And look, the record wasn't good, right? But if you're one of those players, the question you're asking is, how is this going to help us right now? Our strength is our defense. You're taking the architect of the defense out of the equation. You're taking a defensive coordinator who's done a really good job in Jeff Ulbrich, and now you're spreading him thin, right? Meanwhile, you're making the change in offense that Saleh was going to make anyway. So you got your pound of flesh, but where does that actually help us this year? Then they lose a game. Up until that point, they had not made a hard offer up until the point where they fired Saleh, they had not made a hard offer for Davante Adams. All of a sudden now they're willing to give up a 3 that turns into a 2 after they fire Saleh. So now you pull that other lever. That doesn't really work. Now Hassan Reddick is coming back in. It's like eventually you can't keep pushing buttons. You know what I mean? Eventually there needs to be the foundation of something. And that's sort of where I'm at with them is like, all right, like they've had so many opportunities now to kind of put their foot in the ground and turn this around, and it hasn't happened. And it didn't look very good on Sunday night against the Steelers.
And then that's the backdrop of game 2 between the Jets and the Patriots this year, with Jerod Mayo also calling his team soft.
Yep.
They've lost every game since shocking the world with a win in Cincinnati and potentially blowing up everybody's survivor pool just 4 quarters into the season, you know, and Belichick saying he felt bad for the guys that he was calling soft because and he knew each name that of every guy, obviously, because he brought them all in and reminded everybody how great they were at stopping the run last year.
Yeah.
You know, which is the first time in Belichick's remarkable run so far as an analyst that I've really enjoyed, where he was openly, you know, or he was tasked with analyzing what's up with the Patriots, and he didn't mince any words, did he?
Yeah, no, he didn't. And I think there are a few things at work. First, I don't think that the sort of the proverbial transition of power was as clean as the Patriots wanted to make it look. You know, I think Bill, to some degree, probably had a little bit of a problem with the way that the Mayo thing was handled. I don't think they got along great, the two of them, last year. You know, when I've talked to Jerod about the last time I talked to Jerod about it, like he still hadn't talked to Bill since Bill was gone, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, I mean, to kind of like compare it to something that you can relate with, I'd imagine Sharon Moore's probably picked up the phone and called Jim Harbaugh a few times. You know what I mean? Like, so that hasn't happened. And, you know, then you see, you know, Robert Kraft goes on The Breakfast Club and uses the word fired. And I just try to put myself in Bill's shoes there, right? Bill, I don't think wanted to take part in the dog, you know, Bill, I don't think he wanted to take part in the dog and pony show in January, where the two of them stood up there and talked about the good times and everything else. I don't think that's really Bill's thing. But Bill agreed to do it, and, you know, and like they were all going to make it look a certain way. Now, 9 months later, and we all know he was fired, but now 9 months later, you go and just say it, well, maybe that's sparking some emotion for Bill, you know, and there aren't a lot of good breakups. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And the fact that, you know, Jim broke up with Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Although he might say maybe Michigan broke up with him too. I don't know. But bottom line is that at least there was a banner raised before he walked out the door. Yeah. And that wasn't the case in New England either.
Right. And then they forgot how to throw the football.
No. Hey, listen, no, we had Bruce Feldman here yesterday, and he said he had a hard out because he had to go to the dentist. And I'm like, well, speaking of feeling like you're going to the dentist, that Michigan offense, you know, I'll own it. You know, obviously it's not looking great, but in all, Belichick, part of the thing that we keep talking about here is part of his media run that he's on right now. He doesn't take any shot at the Jets and let it go.
Right.
He takes every opportunity he can take a shot at the Jets. He said that with Woody being Woody, ready, fire, aim. What else he was saying, you know? And that's why this week is kind of big in New England for Mayo to be calling the players soft. And then here come the Jets, which Belichick, one of his many Hall of Fame abilities that you can point to, his Hall of Fame abilities to take the Jets and when they were crumbling and then just break them into little pieces and leave them in a fetal position. Right. That was one of his areas of expertise. And that's what the Patriots kind of need to do to this Jets team on a losing streak this week.
I don't think it's even the win or loss element of it. I think they have to look tougher. Like, and I know that sounds simple.
The Patriots, you're
the
saying.
Patriots, yeah. Like, I think they have to. I mean, I don't think that there's anything. I didn't play professional football, but I know enough guys who did to know that is like the ultimate shot you can take at your own team is calling them soft, and especially when you're not prefacing it by taking blame yourself. And that's why Bill would always say, before he would say something about one of his players, got to coach it better. Always said that, got to coach it better, right? So he's taking personal accountability. And, so now I think how the team responds to this is interesting. And don't you think there was a little element of like, I don't know, that's screwing with Mayo too, is to start naming individual players and saying, like, I got your back, Jelani Tavai. I got your back, Devon Godchow. It's almost like screw him. Like, I would have never done that to you, So how the team looks, like, I think like the intensity and the togetherness and all of that, like how competitive they are. I think we're going to be able to tell a lot. Like, and again, that's not just the scoreboard. That's like just the look of the game. Do they stop the run? Are they able to run the ball? That sort of stuff.
Right. I mean,
right. It can't be any worse. They couldn't stop a cold last week.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby and Ernest Johnson. We're having a
it was
day.
Brutal. Also, let's AVP. Let's call some better plays. Yeah. Like Drake May is cooking on the first drive.
I would argue,
and then you immediately run like 10 straight runs.
See, I'd argue the defensive coaching's actually been worse than the offensive coaching.
Well, and I think Bill is clearly noticing that and not taking anything other than his shot to do that. Albert, we're up at the end of our hour for the radio. Thank you for coming here.
No,
have
thanks
a great
for having
time
on
in SoFi, and thanks again for letting me know you're in town and making the time. John Boy and The Miz, hour 2. In the minute 50 we have left, though, so Bill, despite he's terrific with the Mannings. I love him on Inside the NFL. They really are taking his personality and having fun with Ocho and Chris Long, and Ryan Clark, and it's just fun to watch, right?
Right.
But we all think he's going back to coaching?
Yeah.
Everybody
I
thinks so?
do. And I think, keep an eye on the NFC East. He's got the personal connections to the. I don't think the Giants. The Giants aren't making a change. I don't think they're making a change.
You just said that yesterday, right?
I mean, unless things really careen into a ditch, like I think the Giants aren't making a change. But the Eagles could, the Cowboys could. Bill's got a relationship with Howie Roseman. Lurie and Kraft have a little bit of a rivalry there. I think Lurie wouldn't mind getting one over there. Bill's got a great relationship with the Joneses. And then my dark horse, I've said it to you before, Jacksonville. Like, Jacksonville's the one where you got the quarterback in place. You've got, I think, a core of players that isn't championship level, but some guys you can build around. And I think for the most part, he would be able to get the band back together there, maybe in a way that wouldn't be possible in Dallas or Philly, where you could, all right, we're going to bring this guy in as GM. We're going to bring offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, one of the ex-GMs, John Robinson, Thomas Dimitroff, whoever it is. Like, he'll be able to build his own thing in Jacksonville. And to me, it's like almost like when Dallas hired Parcells. That was a credibility play. So Jerry could build a new stadium.
Interesting.
Right? For Jacksonville, with their new stadium, hiring Belichick, there'd be no better credibility play than that. And he's got a relationship with Tony Khan. So there you go.
Albert Breer, dropping the mic. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.